at him, he's heading for that small
Jedi. I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
Look at him, he's heading for that small
Jedi. I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
That's no Jedi. It's Ahsoka Tano.
My name is Ahsoka Tano. I am no Jedi.
I'm no Jedi.
You're right about one thing, Captain. We are no Jedi.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to Analyzing Ahsoka and Other Things. A show about the series Ahsoka and Drooping McCool on Disney Plus. I'm Travis Fishburne.
I am Alex Brunel. I'm sorry, are we to understand that Drooping McCool was in or got cut out of Ahsoka, or are we separately also discussing Drooping McCool as a point of focus? I'm great with either.
Yeah, kind of just, I'm rebranding. I'm really embracing the droopiness, and he's going to be part of every piece of artwork for every Star Wars show going forward. And as you can see, this is part 8. I trooped my pants is what I've titled the episode. I'm not even bothering giving it the proper episode title anymore.
I trooped my pants. That's amazing. I love that. I'm just seeing the card now for the first time, and it's fantastic. Shout out to our two people that we know listen to this show. Shout out to them. Thanks for listening to this show.
Yeah.
There's some. Oh my god, I love Drooping McCool and Max Rebo in this. I really hope you do keep this up for all of our Star Wars content. I hope you even non-Star Wars content, like put them into the Most Dangerous podcast posters.
Oh, that would be fun.
They can be our brand ambassadors.
Speaking of like Most Dangerous podcast, we could bring that back. And I just recently watched, there was an episode of Deep Space Nine, which is all,
oh, no way.
It's the Most Dangerous game.
Oh, okay. I am, where is that spreadsheet of Most Dangerous? Yes, the Most Dangerous Podcast Media Database is what the spreadsheet is called. Do you remember the episode or season number? Or whatever?
Season 1. I forget.
You can probably Google this.
Yeah.
This is riveting podcast content.
Everybody wants this.
Is it episode 6, Captive Pursuit?
That's it. Yep, that's the one.
Okay, great.
Yep. Chief O'Brien befriends this guy. Yep.
That might be a fun, easy one to come back with. For those who don't know, what the overarching name of the podcast is Who Watches. Mm-hmm. There are many sub-podcasts within that because new shows come out and or we get bored and or we get busy. One of those is the Most Dangerous Podcast, wherein we talk about various film adaptations of the short story Most Dangerous Game, wherein a person is hunted for sport by other people. We found it to be one of the most versatile short stories, and we talked about a bunch of iterations so far. Yeah, we should revive it. We should do more.
Yeah.
We try on that show. We put some effort into that show.
For sure. That's a good one. And also, I'm been doing like a rewatch of all of Fincher's stuff because The Killer's coming out. And I'm reading a book that covers, it has like a write-up piece about all of his films. And it's called David Fincher Mind Games. And the first line in the book is from the Most Dangerous Game. I'm like, look at that. And it's because that story kind of like features to a degree in Zodiac.
Oh, that's true.
And the movie is referenced in Zodiac. And
I love Zodiac.
Yeah,
what a great movie.
It's his best one.
I think I agree. Overall, yeah, I think I definitely agree. I've only ever seen the director's cut. That's the correct choice, right?
I mean, yes.
If I still think it's amazing, it must be the right choice.
Yeah, I saw it theatrically, but I do not remember anything beyond what was shown in the director's cut. At this point, it's like what movies like is also like that? There's some movies where I've not even seen like the theatrical cut. Oh, like here's another Fincher one, Alien 3.
You've only ever watched the assembly cut?
I've definitely seen the theatrical cut, but I am only I'm most familiar with the assembly cut.
So you've watched assembly cut more than once, well enough to remember that as
for sure. Assembly cut I know better than the theatrical cut because I was like, because they talk about the differences in the theatrical it was a dog, and then the assembly cut it was a cow, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that it was a dog. I always imagine the cow scene.
The dog is so weird. Yeah. I haven't seen either version in years since I got the is it the Alien Anthology is the Blu-ray set?
The quadrilogy.
Do they still call it the quadrilogy on Blu-ray? I know that was
I don't know if they do.
DVD.
I think anthology is probably what they call it now.
I think quadrilogy got too silly, but and specifically the Blu-ray edition of that is important because for people that are into this kind of thing, the bonus features on the quadrilogy DVD set are some of the best bonus features ever to accompany like a complete series of films. Did Lazurka do those? I think Lazurka, the guy who did like the Star Trek Next Gen bonus features and stuff. He's done a lot of really great BTS stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a very blunt and honest retrospective documentary about Alien 3 and all the things that went wrong with it and why they went wrong.
It's really good.
It's really good. And on the DVD version, there was a whole chunk of it that Fox excised and removed because it was just like 20 minutes that was just directly trashing Fox, which was reinstated for the Blu-ray. So that's important to watch. It's great.
And every time in that doc, they go to like the head of Fox at the time, and he's talking about, and he's like calling certain director. He's like, we can't have all this artsy fartsy stuff. And I'm like, really, guy? Come on.
Yeah, man. It's like reading the quotes from Bob Iger's book when he talks about canceling Twin Peaks and thinking in hindsight that perhaps he made the wrong decision. Or no, not canceling Twin Peaks, forcing them to solve the murder.
Oh, yes.
It was so. If you wanted more reasons of villainy for Bob Iger, more than just the things that we know he said during the writers' strike that has now thankfully been resolved. Actors are still on strike. Union strong, everything. But Bob Iger has been that shitty of a person that has no concept of art for decades. Because he's the one that forced Lynch and Frost to solve the murder of Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks. Thanks, Iger. Welcome to Ahsoka.
Yeah, welcome to Ahsoka, which we'll talk about
segue
eventually. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking the finale of this season, part 8, in which everything is resolved and we're not left with any threads dangling. Clean cut, saga's over, right?
Yeah, I mean those are my complaints too.
No.
the subtext. I mean, I do love that the episode title is "The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord."
I did, yeah. As soon as that popped up, I was like, "Whoa, that is a mouthful of a title," and I instantly get the reference.
Totally, and it's great. I like that a lot. I'll take this question to you for first this time. What did you think of the episode, Travis?
I really liked it. I liked it better than the previous episode. I was getting concerned. Well, I had to stop myself because I thought it was really enjoyable, especially the fun sequence we get with the night troopers.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That was such a great sequence, but
yes.
Even during that, I'm like, well, what's happening with Balin right now?
I know.
It was still in the back of my mind. I'm like, they got to show him, right? And then they did. And I'm like, okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I still think that does propel his story forward a little bit, but that's the most disappointing reality of this episode is just knowing that there's obviously more story that character has,
Yeah.
and that Rey doesn't get
This
to
is
do
just
it.
like all prologue for that character, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm like, oh, as soon as I saw that scene, I wasn't, and there's a lot of stuff happening in that one shot and scene with
Yeah.
him.
And we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But like more than the stuff that was like going on within the world, the only thing in my mind was like, okay, so they definitely are going to have to recast him. That's all I was
I think they have to, yeah. Which will be interesting and will be, I'm sure, ultimately fine. But disappointing nonetheless. Rest in peace, Rey. This was a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
What a way to go out. Yeah, what else? Any other reactions you wanted to share broadly before we start digging into it? I have the episode queued up and ready to fast forward through as we talk about it.
Like the little twist at the end of, somebody going back into the galaxy that we know, and the ones who saved him, they're like, all right, no, just like swap positions.
I pretty much agree with that. I had a great time with this episode. There's fantastic sequences in this episode. And stuff I loved so much. The zombie troopers is maybe my favorite part of this episode, even though it has like a lot of great parts. But like all of the Night Sister-y kind of stuff in this episode. And we learn that these guys are called night troopers. Like, this is so fun. But ultimately, a little disappointing just because it feels so set-up-y. It feels so set-up-y in a, like at least when Empire felt that way in 1980, like audiences could kind of predict in 3 years we get the rest of this. Like we know the timeline. There's not stuff to distract us in the meantime. Like there's just a straight line to the end of that story. Who knows when they're going to take the time and money away from whatever else they're doing to have Filoni make his movie that ties this all up,
Yeah, and if the movie is the thing that like follows this, or if the next season follows this before the movie,
right? And there's another season of Mando, I think, in the can, maybe.
So like, I don't know if it's in the can, but it's definitely.
Skeleton Crew's in the can,
and that Skeleton Crew is in the can, and that's an interesting thing because, in this, and I mean, I think it takes place like pretty much concurrently.
Both Mandoverse.
Yeah, with like what's going on now in the Mandoverse. And Hu Yang is in that show. And I'm like, Hu Yang is stuck with Ahsoka and Sabine on this planet. What are they going to do here? What's the...
That's interesting. So
that's an interesting question.
That'll be interesting to see how that wiggles.
It will be. Unless that show takes place prior to what we see in this show,
which it could. This show gets a little. I mean, like this has been a little time jumpy, right? Because this is concurrent with season. What is this concurrent with season 3 of Mando, or is it before season? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much concurrent with it.
Okay. Do they tweet this stuff? How do we know this? Is this from like Star Wars Insider articles?
No, it comes directly from Dave. I know.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where the quotes come from, as far as like who published or
I'm sure they
posted the interview.
Press junket nonsense.
Or something.
Okay, so Filoni's just talking about this stuff. Okay.
Or I think they banked a lot of the stuff for him to talk about, like, hey, this writer strike's about to happen, Dave. Tell us all this stuff now.
Yeah, it's probably true before none of our actors can go out and promote the show.
Yeah. Because they did do that with Rosario. There was a lot of stuff that was, like the slow drip out that they had put in the can.
So the episode opens with I love how this the Spire docking with the Star Destroyer. It's not dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. It's
um,
interesting.
so this is a super super fun opening scene. I love this. Um, Morgana gets made a Night Mother, right? She gets
Yeah.
inducted and becomes a Night Mother, even though ultimately she's obviously not, or Morgan, I mean, obviously not like of the same status, really. But
Yeah, I mean, and then they give her the sword of Talzin, which that's Mother Talzin's sword. And
okay, so that's big.
that's big. Yeah, so it's like practically giving her the equivalent of like the Mando, the dark saber.
Right.
So I'm like, they're bestowing upon her, but I guess they can get that sword back anytime. I guess it's like we can just conjure this up from wherever it went.
I guess yeah, they do have that power. I love how much we get to see their powers. I really love this like laying of hands, burning of face as an explanation for the markings on their face. That's so cool. Green Fire is so cool. This is all great. I would love a Night Sister movie.
Could happen.
Yeah, they conjure the blade. This is so good. And it's maybe around then that we learn that they're night troopers, or is it later?
It's later.
All right, so remind me what the name of the little turtle people are, because it's very silly and I couldn't think of it.
Naughty.
The naughty. That is very silly.
Yeah,
I was right. Okay.
The naughty little guys.
Next up, we have Ezra building a new lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. And that was fun. And that's that's where we were introduced to Hu Yang. He was helping younglings build lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard somebody theorize like, or at least say we better get Hu Yang at Galaxy's Edge now, part of like the lightsaber building experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that makes sense.
That makes all the sense in the world. I don't the Galaxy's Edge is so entrenched in the sequel trilogy as its aesthetic, and it really does need to pivot over to Mandoverse, I think, for like continued renewal of interest in going.
Yeah, they definitely do, and they're attempting to do so, or as far as characters go, because I know they've got the appearances of certain people showing up, and I don't know. I think it would be simple enough for them to slowly aesthetically maybe change, tweak a few things.
Yeah. This is a great scene. I mean, I think the real standout of all the performances in this show, I mean, Lars Mikkelsen notwithstanding, because obviously, but Iman Esfandi playing Ezra is so freaking good. He's not even really given, I want to say, even enough to do. But he's so good with what little he is given in the show. And I'm very excited to see more of him in the future.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. I like what he's building the lightsaber with. He gets the part that was very distinctive of Kanan's lightsaber. And Hu Yang says, like, yeah, I had 2 of these. One of these I kept as a backup.
Because Kanan seemed like the kind of guy that maybe in his youth would have accidentally gotten his lightsaber destroyed.
And I always loved Kanan's lightsaber, that part of it, and that he wore it on his back, the way it was in Ralph McQuarrie's artwork initially when stormtroopers were going to have lightsabers. That's where they were like storing theirs.
Right.
And,
yeah, it is in reference to that. I guess that never occurred to me.
And he always like had to like take it out and then put it together, which really cool, aesthetically. However, practically, I'm like, why does it keep it in 2 pieces? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either. I mean, I think there was a time when it was. I was muted. I think there was
okay.
a time where it was like for trying to be for just not be detected as a Jedi.
Yeah.
It's a less obvious thing when broken into two parts. Even though he wore one on his belt, right? He wore one of the parts on the belt.
Yeah, the head part of the hilt would have been like on the belt, and then
Yeah,
the cylinder was in the back, but I don't know.
yeah. Um, yeah, this is a really, really nice little scene. Sabine throwing the stink eye because she's trying to push herself to be a Jedi.
I also like that the lightsaber itself has this interesting look in the way that it shimmers and stuff that is reminiscent of the original trilogy, especially in like A New Hope,
Oh
how
yeah, I can see what you
with like
mean.
the rotoscoping effect
Yeah, it's a
on
little.
Luke's is, it's
It
not
does look that
perfect.
way, yeah. I guess that is a thing with the aside from like Kylo's lightsaber, obviously, but
Mhm.
I guess that is a thing that they kind of did away with as the technology
Yeah, like we
shifted
can
toward
just have
computers, right?
this. Yeah, we can have this thing just like always, dispense the right amount of light and it's stable at all times. But it had a different life to it when they had to uh, paint it all by hand.
Right. And I may have mentioned this on the show at some other point, but just as an aside, before the special edition and subsequent revision of A New Hope, um, during the battle with Darth Vader, like there's frames and little moments where like the animation on Obi-Wan's lightsaber goes away in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I thought that was him losing his connection with the Force, and like
Oh,
the lightsaber was entirely dependent on the strength of your connection with the Force at the moment. Um, I didn't learn that wasn't true until 1997.
that's cool. So when Han like cuts open the tauntaun, you're like, Han's really channeling the Force right now.
I don't think I thought that. I
Yeah.
think I did not even make that
Yeah,
connection at all. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's what I assumed was happening with Obi-Wan. Oh yeah, and Hu Yang gives a lowdown on why Ahsoka stopped training Sabine because
Oh
she
yeah,
thought she
we
might
get that
become
answer.
too dangerous. So at least we do get that answer, and
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. That like Ahsoka like is, but that's old Ahsoka. That's Ahsoka the Gray. Ahsoka the White is all for this. I
Mm-hmm.
love Ahsoka the White.
Yeah. Ahsoka the White's great. And yeah, that was interesting info that I was like, oh, I'm glad that we're getting this. And I don't understand why they had to wait up 8 episodes to tell it. I feel like it could have been something that was said a little while ago.
I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities for character moments
Mm-hmm.
on this show. That's a general thing about the season, that it's so action packed, and we do get a lot of character, but we don't get, like, we have a couple minutes of screen time between Ezra and Sabine as they've seen each other for the first time in however long,
Mm-hmm.
across however much distance. We don't get them really reconnecting. They just see each other and then they're hanging out again. We don't ever really see or feel the reconnection.
No.
Um,
And it's really weird because we are as interested as Sabine would be to like ask
Mhm.
him like, so like, can you like fill me in? Like, what's the deal with like you guys on this planet? What have you been doing
Seriously.
with like the Noti? What's your connection with them? What happened with you and Thrawn when you got here? All these
Right,
things.
like, did you guys intersect at all over the last 10 years? Like, did Thrawn have no concept you were there? Like, what happened in that time? Even just like 2 sentences about it would be fine.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Just
That's all they
some
needed.
information, please.
Just give us some kind of a lowdown of like, where things stand and why, to a
Yeah.
degree.
We didn't get that. Maybe there will be a novel. I mean, it's also a thing of like, I was reading somebody's comment in a Reddit post, and I'm not going to try to find who it was, But credit to a person in a popular Reddit post about Star Wars television today and r/Star Wars, made the good point that like filler episodes have a place, and that's when we get more character moments. That's when we get like two people sitting at a table talking for a whole chunk of a scene, or you know, real screen time or whatever. And that's when we can get that stuff. But when you take characters that have those moments from another show, now you're putting them in a show that has 8 episodes, and it can only be 8 episodes because it costs as much as a tentpole movie to make 8 of these episodes. You only have so much money that you can pour into creating this thing. That stuff gets shortchanged for the action, and like, so it tries to have the best of both worlds. I'm kind of realizing, like Ahsoka and all these shows, it tries to have the best of both worlds, where it like gives you the more time of a TV show, but like is still not really fully fleshed out character wise, like a movie, like Star Wars movies kind of are. So yeah,
Yeah,
a little meh on that point.
it's definitely missing something in the, like you said, the pacing and the fleshing out things. It's, I don't know.
Yeah. I do really like how Rosario is playing Ahsoka in this episode. She is reminding me, I mean, you know, it's obviously Ahsoka, but she's reminding me of the kind of impishness of playful Yoda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's got so much wisdom that she's like so unworried in general that she can just be more playful now. But still serious when needed. And I think Rosario is playing that very well.
No, agreed. So then they get this fun fight sequence with the TIE fighters. They take them
This is a
down.
fun sequence. Yeah, this is really good. Two Force users holding up a starship, friggin' using the starship to just bash the wings off these fighters. This is so good. And then, of course, crashing, which is a very like Rebels kind of thing.
It is.
I feel like.
Because when you see it happening, you're like, oh, that ship's a goner. But
Yeah.
Huyang he fixes it up. Just
Where do they get these parts? I mean, like,
don't
it
know.
seems like they're carrying an entire ship's worth. Like, it's a whole separate ship of parts within this ship somewhere, somehow. This thing has gotten really batched up in just the 8 episodes we've seen. Like, it's impressive.
You know what would have been cool? Because, you know, he gets some help from the Na'vi who are also working on the ship with him. It would have been cool if when it came back, it like part of it was they had used like the kind of whatever material they use for their little homes. And so like half of it looks like that.
That would be great. I would
cobble
love
it
that.
together
Because
that way.
obviously they're like handy little critters.
Yeah.
I don't think Ezra made all of their little home pods for them. But yeah, that would have been great. I would have loved to see weird little patches all over the ship, which seems like we should have. It just comes back like normal later. Yeah, Thrawn is, you know, bummed that they made it planet. They made it planet side save. They got through that. So they send out this wave of what we now learn are night troopers, the volunteers. And as soon as this like thing goes into, they volunteered, are you sure? Yes, they're good with what's going to happen. I'm like, oh, she's going to turn them into relentless zombies. That's going to be great. Like I knew it like immediately. And then even though I thought that that's what was coming, it wasn't any less awesome when it happened. Yeah,
It's great.
So,
They had the glowing green eyes.
oh man. So we talked about this. Yeah, the ground assaults. They try to blow them up. It doesn't work. They get to the doors. Oh yeah. So then the scene where like the troopers pre their death, you know, before the night troopers die, there is this great scene of the three of them just slaughtering all of them. It is a really fun like action scene that definitely harkens back to Clone Wars and Rebels stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And other
is
stuff with
super
this
fun.
as well is, just like watching it. I know that they used a ton of like real guys in stormtrooper gear, and
mhm.
at the same time, I'm like, there's got to be like extra work that's digital here somewhere, and it's hard for me to tell where that begins and ends.
Me too, man. I didn't question any of it.
Yeah, because there was a shot 2 episodes ago on board the Chimera with Thrawn having a discussion with somebody else, and you saw some stormtroopers in the background, and I could tell they were digital, just like by the way they were moving and stuff. I'm like, okay, so they have, like some digital usage of stormtroopers here, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like really impressive, and that's how it should be when you
Agreed.
don't know, how the trick is done.
I totally agree. I buy all these scenes visually. Looking at them again now and like thinking of it in this way, I can see that they're very volumey. But the first time I watched the episode, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just thinking how awesome zombie stormtroopers being resurrected by Night Mothers was. And at this point, I am going to reference the book Death Troopers from 2009. Did you read Death Troopers?
I didn't read it. I did listen to it. It's a good listen.
Yeah, it's a great listen.
Because there's a lot of good sound effects and music being used in that.
It's gnarly. I think I think the audio adaptation is like not that long, too, maybe 6 or 8 hours. It's basically about an Imperial prison ship that gets infected with a zombie virus. And so it is a straight up zombie horror novel, except it's Star Wars. And Han Solo and Chewbacca show up at some point, I think, right? That happens?
I think so. The thing is, I've like read so many expanded universe Star Wars books. I forget so much.
I forget a lot of this one too. Okay, I'm looking in the Wikipedia article on it.
It's coming back to me, the Han Solo stuff and Chewie.
But if anybody listening is interested in reading a non-canon Star Wars zombie book, Death Troopers is awesome. I think there's a sequel maybe that I never read.
The sequel, or the guy who wrote it then wrote Red Harvest, which
that's right.
It was another Star Wars horror book, but prequel that like doesn't. I mean, it ties into it, but it's obviously it's not about like stormtroopers being zombies. It's more Sithy stuff. So, and that one I never did, dive into.
Death Troopers. Wait, I want to see who reads this, because is it? Hang on. I don't want to say who I think reads most of it, if I'm not right.
Is somebody notable?
It is. Oh, it's Sean Kennan. Is that the one? Maybe, probably is. John Glover reads the sequel, though.
Oh.
So that may be a good excuse to check out Red Harvest Audio Edition, because John Glover is just great. Oh, wait, that's unabridged, though. I definitely listened to, like... I think it was abridged, but... Okay, we're getting too into the weeds here. we're getting way too into the weeds. Can you stall? I apologize to our audience. I have to pee. Can you stall for a minute or talk about whatever you want? I'll be right back.
All right, you go for it. And I will say that Death Troopers was published October 13th, 2009. Which we are approaching Friday the October 13th right now. Ooh, spooky. And so everyone should check out Death Troopers. Really fun audiobook. You can read it too, but the audio is really fun. So then in the episode proper that we're talking about, after they come back, they're still using the blasters for whatever reason. They're not just throwing themselves at our heroes like you think they should be. But then they get closed off the door, and then Sabine and Ezra are taking on Death Troopers proper, not undead night troopers, but Death Troopers from Rogue One. And these guys looks like they've already been dead, and it's interesting. I wonder if these specific Death Troopers have already, been dead for a while, or the process has happened with them, over and over again. Don't really know. It bears exploring, I would say. And yeah, so until Alex gets back, we're just gonna have some chopper time. So Chopper, what did you think of the Death Troopers? Oh, really? And what about the other Death Troopers? Oh no.
Have you been interviewing Chopper?
Yeah, I was asking him a little bit about like what he thought of the Death Troopers.
Great.
Awesome. And the thing I like about the fact that, so here's the thing about stormtroopers, and it's always been the thing about them, is they are not very effective because of the poor when you say gonna send some stormtroopers your way, like, all right, great, like, and the only thing that they really have is strength in numbers, which
they can overwhelm very easily.
Exactly. So by turning them into zombies, it's like you're using them in the way that you do use zombies, which is like you overrun somebody with like bodies. It's not that they're each individually threatening, but when there's so many of them, I like that. Yeah,
it makes them really scary. And there is, when they're getting rid of the last couple, I mean, I guess this scene, this whole sequence like really lasts a long time. I love all of it, but this whole section of the episode really goes on for a while.
And a question that I was like bringing up was the Rogue One Death Troopers that Ezra and Sabine take on. It's, revealed that like these guys have been like this for a while, or at least it's happened to them a few times.
It does seem that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they seem extremely dead. So the group splits off. Our three heroes continue charging their way through this giant wang sticking out of the planet, and encounter Morgan, and Ezra and Sabine go on ahead to try to reach the goal, while Ahsoka's like, I'm going to take care of this witch. This is a great sword fight. I love this. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching it in fast forward right now and not even skipping through it. It's just really good. All of the swordplay in this episode, I think, is great. Like very, very fine Star Wars swordplay. What are these things? Are these like okay, so then we have Sabine and Ezra nearing their goal of being able to get on the Star Destroyer. Are these assassin droids, or are these other somehow unkillable troopers, or these zombies? I can't remember what these guys specifically
These are the Death Troopers. These are the Rogue One Death Troopers.
Oh, these are the original Death Troopers. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know it's hard because like there was a book Death Troopers, and then when they said there were going to be Death Troopers in Rogue One, everyone thought of that. And like, no, they're just like, black clad stormtroopers. Right. And now we've got the Night Troopers, which are the real Death Troopers.
Right. Yeah. The nomenclature got confusing. I do. Troopers this thing a lot.
I thought it would have been really cool. Some of the original artwork for Rogue One and the Death Troopers was going to show like one of them without their helmet on, and they were going to have like half of their head taken off. Decraniated is like where it would be
like the Servant in Solo.
Exactly. And that's where they got the Servant and Solo stuff, was concepts for the Death Troopers.
Interesting.
So I was like, oh, now that like we've got like the undead ones, you could actually show that.
That would be terrifying, and I want it. Cooper, I like when you hang out, but hard to see my screen. Yeah, I love this. Sabine just blasting this guy in the face and revealing a zombie maw. It's great. This is... I need more of this in Star Wars. And then Sabine uses the Force.
She does.
She does it.
Which, it's a big moment, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, it felt like a lot out of nowhere. I don't know how you felt about that.
It did. I liked that she was able to get there. I would have preferred more indication beforehand that she even could.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't disagree with the idea that she could get there. I would have just liked to see a little bit more supporting evidence along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I also would have liked for her to react positively about that at all. It seems out of character for her to not be impressed with herself for doing something like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Should have done that. Should have gotten her spray can out and, made some celebratory graffiti.
I mean, maybe that's being too nitpicky or whatever, but I guess just something more than just it works now.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked. I like it working.
What if, when she did that and she sent him, flying into the Star Destroyer,
the Kaylin and Ezra maneuver.
Yeah, then like the two night troopers watching him like go in, they should have both said, "They fly now."
I would have even laughed at that.
Yeah.
I was, I guess I do have a little bit of an eyebrow raise at Sabine being able to pull off this Force push thing, even though, she does fall a little short. But this was like a risky maneuver when it was Kanan pushing like a 60-pound child, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I guess there is that. Like getting a lightsaber is different than pushing Ezra to the Star Destroyer.
It definitely is. And like when they showed them arrive in the gap, I'm like, oh yeah, they missed it. And then it kept going on. They're like, no, we can do this. And I'm like, I don't think you can. That's suicide.
And then they do the classic fake out that makes it look like Sabine is going to run and try to get on the Star Destroyer, even though she sees her master, Ahsoka, fighting Morgan and a bunch of zombie troopers.
Yeah, she seemed to just run and then hide somewhere until she could, make an appearance.
Right. But I gotta say, this bit of fighting between Ahsoka and Morgan, and then Sabine just frickin' ripping through all these zombies, and then to Ahsoka. Like, Ahsoka's final move was so fast, I had to rewind it and even see what that was.
Yeah.
Angela was like, she got her sword. And I'm like, wait, what? How? And had to see that again. But I love the finale of this fight a lot. I think it's great. Very good death fall.
Yeah, they're being chased by the troopers. And then I knew it was coming when they jumped off. I'm like, oh, they're pulling a Marty in Back to the Future too.
Yeah. Exactly. Deus Ex Machina for sure. Just like, yeah, it works. It's good. Yeah, how did you like this fight? Do you like the fights in this episode?
Oh yeah,
Do you agree?
yeah, it was great. I liked all that stuff.
Yeah, Morgan's death is great. I mean, who's it? Diana Lee Inosato?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
great death fall. Not too over the top, but overly over dramatic in an appropriate way for what this is.
Agreed.
I think it's a great death fall. I think she should win some sort of award.
Death of the year.
Definitely one of them. I don't know. I can't think of any other particular movie deaths that I
Was
thought
that ever
were,
like a? I'm trying to remember all the stupid MTV Movie Award categories. Was Best Death one of them?
You know, I don't think so, but let's find out.
Best Kiss was always a big one.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was the champ at that.
No, there was a best villain,
Best villain.
but there's not best death.
Best action scene. I remember. I remember when George Lucas won that for the pod race,
Oh, that's so silly.
and he went up.
What?
And he said, like, and next year I expect to see you. I remember him pointing to Samuel L. Jackson and calling out Samuel L. Jackson. He's going to be up here getting an award for Shaft, because that was coming out that summer that he'd won it. I'm like, all
That's
right.
really funny. I'm gonna have to look that up on YouTube just to see George Lucas reference Shaft.
It is so weird that I remember that from like over 20 years ago.
Might be harder to find than I thought. I know how to internet. I will find this stuff. Okay. I can't believe Best Villain was an award. I totally forgot that. So, Ezra is on the ship. Does his classic Ezra thing of impersonating an Imperial officer on the radio once he's dispatched them, and drags him off to steal his uniform. I love this.
Oh yeah,
I think
that's great.
I thought that was fantastic. I mean, it's just character carrying.
Classic,
Which
yeah.
is good. You know, Ahsoka and Sabine reconnecting the way that they do at the, when Sabine comes back for her is very nice. Thrawn decides to blow up the tower, so of course the ladies have to run and jump off to the starship that has recently been revived by Hu Yang and the Naughties. Ooh, that sounds like it should be a group. I would buy that album. But yeah, they pull the Marty McFly. They jump onto the thing and rise right up.
They do. If only they'd opened the door and knocked out the troopers, Biff style.
Great Scott!
That would have been great. Brief exchange between Thrawn and Ahsoka, which I guess they felt like they just kind of had to do. But I like this conversation. I think this is a nice setup. And then, they just get blasted by the hyperspaceness.
Yeah.
And then we have like the Lord of the Rings style, what
Montage
everyone's
of all
up
that,
to
yeah.
for the moment ending, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we get them going back and seeing the naughty, and then we get Shin showing up and raising her lightsaber. Seem like, hey guys.
Oh wait, but when they come back to see the naughty though, Ahsoka sees her spirit animal.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What's the name of that thing? I know you know this.
Yes, I know. Oh, I forget now.
I'm looking. The Morai.
Morai. Yep. It's weird because it looks. Morai looks like just a straight up owl in this particular incarnation, where I feel like definitely in Rebels, and then it even shows up in Mando when they're the first episode that Ahsoka's in, and I felt like it looked a little more exotic. But
This show made some interesting design choices in regards to their animals and their realism.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the last time we saw a Lothcat in Mandalorian at some point, it looked just like a live action version of the Lothcat from Rebels, like one for one. And then we see the Lothcat on Lothal and at the beginning of Ahsoka, and it doesn't look that way. It looks like a creature that might actually exist as opposed to a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So maybe that same thing was applied to the space owl.
Could have been. Yeah.
But that's interesting because I'm gonna bring something up when we get to another character here in just a second. But so yeah, there's that moment, and Shin joins up with the Marauders because how did she? So Balin sent her off, right? And was like, do what you got to do, which was like pursue power. And then she was defeated by Ahsoka, but didn't. I guess I assumed she was returning to the Star Destroyer to like be Thrawn's underling.
Yeah, we didn't know what she was doing, and for some reason she's deciding to stick with these guys. And I'm like, all right, that doesn't.
Like, and what is there to do on this planet aside from terrorize the naughty? Like, really, what is there to do?
Yeah, we don't know what this planet is. It's weird. Or, you know, there are theories as to what it is. And obviously there was that Citadel Tower, and they had all these, you know, obviously now bodies.
Right.
Bodies of, you know, Dathomiri, apparently. Probably.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were being stored there for some reason. And we've got... you know, jumping ahead, we've got statues of the father, son, and mostly daughter from the Clone Wars.
Right, and that's something I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
comment on. It's interesting that the daughter's head is missing, I guess.
It is.
Because that wasn't even really clear to me until you said it, but I see it very clearly now. But there's one theory that I've heard floated is that Anakin, Ahsoka, and Balin are on their way to becoming the new iterations of the father, the son, and the daughter. Which I can kind of see.
It's a fun little theory. I don't know. That's just interesting to me. Like that would be a thing. So like, why all of a sudden do we need some kind of like physical representation of these mythical gods? Where we, as far as I know, we've not had those or needed them prior, unless at any point throughout like the timeline, there's always like kind of three people who kind of embody them in some way. You know, mm-hmm. I don't like, why now is an interesting question.
It's a very valid question. There's a lot of questions if they try to go that way that I hope would have very fun and not annoying answers. But I guess time will tell. But I love this shot. I think it's a great shot. I love the implications. Sad that Rick Ray didn't get to do anything more than this for this episode.
No. Yeah.
He just gets to look at mountains and scowl beautifully and think. So Thrawn arrives.
This feels just, you know, we've already talked about how Lord of the Rings-ish much of the stuff is, but this one especially felt like at the end of this looks like, you know, Frodo and Sam looking out and being like, there's Mount Doom, we're going for it.
100%. Oh, and I'm also only now putting together that the father is pointing in that direction and he's going to go that way for Force reasons. Yeah. Okay, so that only just occurred to me. I'm glad that I just rewound this like 3 times and put that together. So then Thrawn arrives in the galaxy we're most familiar with, right? Yep. They go to Dathomir?
Yep, that's definitely what it looks like.
A bunch of coffins. And Ezra flies a very cool-looking Imperial shuttle. I don't know if this is like, you know, patched up or if it's a type of Lambda shuttle that
it's a type of shuttle. It is. Oh man, I used to have all these shuttles memorized. It's not Lambda. It's Is it a Delta? I don't know.
let's see. Let's see if I can fall down the Wikipedia rabbit hole far enough to find the part of the episode
There's a
where
Theta shuttle. There's a Delta shuttle. Which one is it?
Eta class.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Jedi Ambassador shuttle.
Yeah.
Or
We saw that.
Republic Ambassador shuttle.
Yeah, they were used in the Clone Wars.
So that you think that must have been on the Star Destroyer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that a ship that old would be on the Star Destroyer at that point, right?
For sure. Yeah. It's interesting.
Huh. I'm sure there's no answer to that. It's just a cool looking ship. Like, whatever. It doesn't actually matter.
Was it... Who... Is that the ship that Balin and Shin were? Did they take it?
Oh. That could
But no,
be.
they... Unless it was on the hyperspace ring they brought.
Hang on. No, it's not referenced there. Yeah, that was their ship. You're right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Nice. Thank you.
Cool.
It does look cool. And then the fun scene of this trooper that no one in the Republic has ever seen anything like coming off the ship with his hands up, and
It's really ballsy of him to be like, you know what? I'm not taking the helmet off or anything. I'm just gonna like walk out. Hopefully nobody takes any shots. And
but he knows that also, like, if a stormtrooper was flying in and like surrendering to the Republic, they wouldn't shoot him on sight.
yeah.
And he's Ezra, and he's having a little bit of fun. Classic Ezra. So does Chopper smell him? How does Chopper just
has to.
realize
I
this
don't
is
know.
Ezra? This didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, they make
Like,
it
Chopper would be like the least likely entity to be able to figure out that is Ezra, right?
Yeah, they try to make it like Chopper is like, has some kind of like an, animal sense that knows when their master is around. The only thing I could say that Chopper could recognize that people could not is maybe like there might be a certain walk in body language that is specific to each individual person that Chopper recognized, and that is all he would have to go on.
I would buy that if he's actually thinking that hard.
Yeah.
Which is probably arguable, but I'd buy that. But I love this guy playing Ezra in this moment. I think he plays it really wonderfully. Mary Elizabeth Winstead tries. She's there. She's
Just
great.
doing what you can.
Yeah. Sabine and Ahsoka chilling on the planet, just kind of looking off into the distance and into the future as Huyang like makes food with the Nadi. And Sabine turns back toward the clouds, like she feels something, but then she's very vague about it. And then, I love this moment. I forgot this. This is great. You want to say it?
Oh, the blue guy who showed up?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, then we get the ghost of Anakin Skywalker.
I'm afraid I just blew myself.
Nice.
That's what he said.
Not only do I really like this moment for the show, I do really like this moment for the show and for those characters, and Sabine starting to be able to feel that kind of stuff, despite qualms with earlier blah blah. Hayden has always I think been disappointed by the fact that George Lucas just took footage that was outtakes from Revenge of the Sith and composited that on Sebastian Shaw's body for what currently stands as the ending of Return of the Jedi. I believe I recall him reading an interview with him where he said something to the effect of he would have liked to have been asked to play that moment rather than just it being taken from whatever.
That's
so I felt
really
very
weird.
happy for him
Yeah.
that not only did he get to do all the other stuff he got to do on the show, he got to have that moment. Do you
For
remember
sure.
reading similar?
I don't know that I've heard that before, but I buy it.
I might be just making that up. I think I read that. I didn't bother to check. That's what you get with this podcast. Integrity.
Cool. And that's the season of Ahsoka.
Also, just shout out to Kevin Kiner's continued work on the show, and this episode in particular. I thought the score was fantastic.
As always.
Oh, and I also would like to take this opportunity to say rest in peace to Jana Chapicic. I'm sorry, I can't really pronounce the last name. Costume designer for all of the Mandoverse shows, and back in the day, she was costume designer on Firefly and all this stuff. And she passed away this week, and she was a big Star Wars nerd, and it showed in like how great so many of the costumes on these TV shows are. They are outstanding. Like I'm thinking back to like season 1 of Mando and the Frog People and how all that stuff is, and you know, to Ahsoka on the little vests on the naughty when, you know, they didn't have clothes, it would probably been just as fine, but instead they have cute little clothes. It's sad.
Yeah.
But the work lives on, and she did some really beautiful work. So yeah, Ahsoka, mixed bag, which seems par for the course for Star Wars television. You know, more recently, mostly. But I think the highs were very high. I think the show had higher highs than any other non-Andor Star Wars television in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought just visually it looked great.
Mm-hmm.
All of the fights were awesome, and looking forward to seeing what we get next time.
And they're gonna keep making it. I mean, people watched it.
They did.
So
I think like now it's a question of, you know, how much money they put into more of it.
right, and Hollywood is just like hemorrhaging money. So the next few years will be interesting for sure. But yeah, I look forward to seeing what the next thing is, which I guess is Skeleton Crew.
It's
When
going to
does
be
that come out?
Skeleton Crew. When we get it, it's a question, but yeah, that'll be the next one.
Yeah, it just says 2023. There's not much of 2023 left.
No, it's not coming out this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the meantime, everybody watch Loki, watch Kehu Kwan.
Oh yeah, we got to start Loki. We were going to the other night, but we were too tired. I guess the current rumor is January 24 for Skeleton Crew.
Okay.
We'll see. Oh yeah, and the Acolyte. I'm excited for the Acolyte. We're not dealing with Loki, are we?
No, not on this show.
Okay, great.
No. You know, it was a struggle for me to you know, to commit to this one. And it's not because, I don't know, like, I think just like the more Star Wars shows that get pumped out, I don't want to, you know, feel ungrateful or not have the, you know, the proper amount of enthusiasm. But, you know,
There's fatigue.
Here's fatigue.
We barely have time to get excited for a thing before the next thing comes out. I mean, just in terms of like how it used to be, as opposed to how it's been for the last like 4 years or so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just enjoy the ride while we surf down the tubes.
That's it.
But anyway,
how I feel.
Yeah.
Chopper, how do you feel about it? Yeah.
agreed.
All right. Well,
I assume that was a dirty remark.
Now that was some hot jizz.
God damn it.
there we go. That's the high note to end the show on.
Yes.
All right.
Great.
So, Alex, until next time, where can people find you?
It only occurred to me today to start directing people here, but I'm on Letterboxd. If you go to letterboxd.com/Alex Brunel, you can keep up with what movies I'm watching. Or you can check out my resume in the TV and movie industry at abrunel.com.
Cool. Yeah, you can find me at all the things at Travis Fishburne, the show at Who Watches Podcast, whowatchespod@gmail.com. And I don't know, just everyone, keep an ear out. We might be doing some Most Dangerous coming up.
Yeah, stay tuned to the feeds for announcements about when the next show is.
Yeah.
Which will happen sometime.
Definitely. All right. So,
Cool.
all right. So everybody, until next time, stay droopy and McCool.